All right, all you devils out there. Happy Friday. Sam here with you. It's now the 28th of the month here, so middle of the day for me. I just taking a little extra time here to prep this and reconfirm that my primary count, which I'm going to do for you here. Now, it hasn't changed since last week, so we haven't gone too far in the last week, but just a few things to note and maybe pass along a few nuggets here. And it's kind of interesting where we sit. Now, before I get into the TA here, just a couple things to bring to your attention. Of course, you can find this on our Twitter feed as well. At the end of the day, we'll post this, but we will be doing a little Memorial Day sale here. This will run through the end of the weekend, so some nice discounts on all of this. Is educational only. Right, got to make that distinction for the belt system and full access to everything we do. Right, so you've got 4 levels of discounts here. Now, one thing right here, as my partner has noted here, the coupon code must be in all caps. Right, so if you're after the 6-monther EDU, all caps 25, right? So you just, when you're checking out, you'll see a little spot for the discount code, and that will take care of it automatically. Additionally, we've got 20% off on all of our indicators. Now, that's for those of you that are working with Ninja Trader. And just as a reminder, for some of you not familiar with that side of our business, if you just come over to our website and then click on indicators up at the top, this will take you to TradeDevilsIndicators.com, Trade Devils Indicators, I should say. And you'll see this noted. Just a reminder, you can do a 5-day free trial. That's 5 trading days. Let me emphasize that. So if you were to start the trial today, we wouldn't include Saturday and Sunday. In this case, Monday, right? Markets will be closed on Monday. Well, traditional markets. But that's, so just so you know, that's five full trading days, unlimited access to all of our indicators. And for those of you that are indicator-based, trading with Ninja, we've just released some new order flow tools, and there'll be content as well as videos that will be coming out over the weekend. So you can look for that if that's of interest to you. Okay, so let's, with all that said, as I said, if you're interested in this and you want to catch it or just be reminded of those codes, it'll be on our Twitter feed. Right? So you can always find that over there. All right, let's go back over to Bitcoin with that little promo now out of the way. So here we sit. So just a daily chart on Coinbase. All I've done here is just kind of, I try to disengage from the chart being Bitcoin. So if I'm just looking at this chart, how would I approach this? I guess what I'm trying to do here is take an objective look at where we are and how we resolve from this. So just looking at this, right? So this area of congestion, not terribly surprising that after the sell-off, this is where we're stalling. Now, there is absolutely nothing on this chart here that would suggest that we couldn't just come straight down from here. What we can see is that if we break these lows of support here, well, we have a few little stops, right? So maybe you can make the case here that we might have a little bit of a pause right here. Maybe. Okay, you got a little bit of a cluster here. Now, when we put the volume profile on, we'd take note of that. You'd have a little cluster here. Now, you'd have the same thing here where we have, this is potentially now a part of the 3-4 of the internal impulse. And you'll note that yellow line there. Well, that yellow line is our previous all-time high here now. Yeah, I'm not on the ticks. I prefer to use just the candle bodies here, so I'm not going up to that very tick high. But just noting that as we, let me zoom back in here on this section. Right, but possible areas of support. So, as I look at this, the question you're always asking, okay, well, if it breaks, where's it headed? All right, where can I anticipate finding some support? Well, here we're kind of dancing on the edge. If we're going to break below that, there's not much that's there prior to getting here. Now, we can put some fib levels on and look at the volume profile, which we're going to do. But I just caution you here that this level now has been tested a couple of times, likely to get tested again, right? But it's likely, right? You just never know. And the weekend's a wild card. We could come down here. That's all wicks down there. We could come out of here, and the count is actually a little more challenging as to how to label if we push higher. So let's just review a couple of things. So I've kind of done this in I tried to do it in order. Okay, so the first thing I just worked on was down here, because I think this is the key to the entire count, right? In terms of how it ultimately gets counted, right? Is it 1 2 1 2, or is it 1 2? Right? That's going to end up being the determinant in terms of how we resolve the correction and where we go from here. My view, right? My view. Well, so the first thing I did here was just looking at this, just trying to dig into what I propose is our initial wave 1 here. And then we get the little three-way correction here. It shouldn't be surprising here that this area of congestion, we got two little pockets of congestion. Now, granted, note here, I'm pulling from the low to the high, so I'm not including anything here. This is all just moving forward. This little section right here, which is the proposed wave 2, mighty small, mighty skinny, but then the wave 2 here is damn near just as small. So both of the wave 2s are problematic. But if this is the internal here, right, it plays better than the first one being the giant one too. We'll look at that in a second. Well, just bring that back here again, trying to review this, and then let's put the bigger one. Let's get that one on. Let's put the bigger one on. So same thing here. So as we look here, this should not surprise anyone. Now, granted, I am in log scale still. Right? So if we look at this range of high volume, right, that would make sense here. That's where we would anticipate that we'd get the bell curve in the volume profile, and then you can see if we come down lower, the next little pivot right here would be potentially now an area of support. At least we have some volume, some business was done here. If we're coming down lower, well, then again, right now, note this, right on the edge of where the prior, right, our 20K peak, our 2017 peak, coming in right at the ledge of that support here. Now, it distorts it a bit here because we compress above, but that edge is very distinct, right, and certainly noteworthy. So if we're going to start breaking lower, right, well, now we're coming down, if we're coming down to test this, we're breaking 20K, right? So the potential is for this to get ugly. I'm not ready to go there yet, but we certainly want to acknowledge potential areas of support should we break lower, right? Now, we all know going into the weekend, we got a long holiday, plenty of the entrenched powers that be are speaking of Bitcoin, right? And of course, those that are entrenched in power, Bitcoin's a threat. So, not surprised. God, I saw something this morning. Somebody posted on Twitter. It was someone in the Japanese central bank. I'm fairly certain, and I saw it once, so I'm speaking off the top of my head here. I was claiming that if Bitcoin became a global currency, we'd all die. I mean, I literally laughed out loud upon seeing that. I should retweet it so you can watch it. It's one of the dumbest things I think I've ever heard anyone say. Yet, it shouldn't be surprising, right? Central bankers, right? Bitcoin's quite the threat. So, all of that said, let me bring it back here to what we're looking at in front of the chart. All right, so we can kind of this makes sense. I can see the big cluster here. That makes sense. Okay, this makes sense. All right, and I've got potential support levels if we start to break, because right now, certainly it would be easy to, as we dig into the lower time frames, you could certainly make a case for this being some unresolved down here. But let's just keep going here. So now I'm going to pull up. So from here, now I'm going to just pull up the next, start bringing up some fib retracements here. Well, let me push this off. Okay, so if this, well, maybe it'd be better if here, I'll say this. I'm not going to put any Elliott on it just yet. This is the last low, right? So if we come back to this section, this is the last pivot low before we start and we get a clear, maybe I need to bring it in. We get this clear impulse that comes off of that low. Is it that one? Nope, those are corrections. Let me find it. I think it's right there. Nope. Shit. I should have had these identified. There we go. All right, I knew it was one of them. Okay, so let me zoom in there. All right, so coming off of this looks like this is a little distorted because of the way I did it in log scale. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this being the start, where this the whole issue down here, this is challenging for any Elliottician to count, right? It could be this, could be that. What I do think is solid is this is a reasonable contender for a running flat, right? So we get the ABC into the expanded B, A, B, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We end with a diagonal down to that C. And then from here, and part of the reason that I lean into this count as my primary is because of what happens coming off of that low. Very clear impulse. And then coming off of that, very, very, very clear A, B, C. Right, so we get this one here. This is a little atypical, right? We're coming off of the COVID lows. The market's still wrestling, right? We don't really have any clear trend, so this is a bit of a choppy, very shallow correction. But then off of that, then we launch, right? And so this pivot, to me, looks critical. So thus, as I'm pulling, now as I pull out here, oh shit, come back here. That's what I want. That's what I want to pull out here. All right, now we start to put some context around it. Now, Elliotticians are going to differ on how to count this because it could be counted different ways, right? Love it or hate it, right? That's part of the reality of Elliott Wave. There are often areas that can be counted multiple ways, right? And we can't be definitive until the whole thing completes, and then we can work backwards. Right now, we're just doing our best to make an educated estimate of what is most probable, right? It's not really a guess because we're not just guessing where we're headed later. We're trying to use the tools, rules, and guidelines of Elliott Wave Theory to guide us into where the next probable swing location would be in terms of what are we anticipating for a potential pivot. Are we done here, right? It's a simple question. If we just look at this and say, okay, well, I've come right back to the support. Are we done here? Could we be done? Because you could certainly look at this at this point in time from this distance and say, oh, okay, well, I'm looking for threes. Well, maybe it'd be easier to just do it this way, right? So that sure looks like I got a 3. Sure looks like I got a 3 there. Now we're going to dig into that count, right? So the question is, are we done there? But if you were just looking at this chart here and we were just focused on this section here and we'd had this clear impulse, right? I don't think anyone's going to differ about whether that's impulsive. Well, I'm looking for a 3 to correct it, ABC, right? And where have I come, right? Now note, log scale, I've come right to the 38. I've come to the prior area where I would anticipate support. Right? No, support is not certain, but if it was up here and starts to come down and you're anticipating, well, where am I likely to find some support? Well, first challenge was here at the pivot high. If that doesn't hold, well, you'd anticipate perhaps down to the pivot low, right? So we get this range here, and that's exactly what we've done. Now we sit here stuck. Now note what we're doing. We're stuck between the 23.6 and the 38. Now what makes this both interesting as well as challenging is that look what happens when we come out of log scale. Now, I propose here that given the range, I mean, we're from 30, this is a $60,000 range. Pardon me, just about. So from 38 to 65. Not quite, but damn near, right? It's over 50, it's over a 50K range. If you brought up a chart with something that had a 50K range, would you continue to look at it arithmetic or would you go to log scale? I think you'd go to log scale. All right, so but just because as technicians, we're just looking for where am I finding technical reactions, right? It is somewhat interesting that if I take this out of log scale, well, look what I've just done. Now, again, I'm using what I propose to you is the significant low as we come out of this initial cluster. So I'm pulling from that low that what I just looked at, right? So if this is the ABC of that running flat and I pull up to that swing high, right? Well, here, I mean, of course, the range looks very different, but here now that same high volume node here that's tied to this price action here, we've come down, but golden zone. Interesting, right? So you look at that and say, okay, well, if I'm not analyzing in logarithmic scale, and I'm just going to pull here in arithmetic, well, that's kind of interesting. We don't know, right? I don't know, I should say, right? But I'm fairly certain nobody knows because they wouldn't reveal it, as to how they adapt to log scale when we have this kind of a range, how the algorithms adapt. I've seen enough of it to where it looks to me like it's part of the algorithmic coding that would be done. Remains to be seen, right? We can't prove it. So all we can do is just look for evidence. Right now, as I look at that in log scale, right? So if we start to put this together, a pivot here at the 38, or take it out of log, a pivot at the 618, tells me that potentially here I've got a very significant pivot. Potentially. Let's just keep going here. So let me start to put on a few other pieces of this. Oh, shit, that's the one I already drew here. So let's take that one off. Then there's the larger one. Okay, so let's go through the larger one because this is the primary count that I've been kind of focused on here. I'll take some of this stuff off, having made that point. So here, the entire labeling here. So now when you look at it here in log scale, right, and you put it in this context, and we just look here, it doesn't look like it would be that difficult until you come down here. Where's the 2? Where's the 2? Right? No, I've been kind of emphasizing this. I mean, I remember when this was going in and saying, oh, once we started to go and looking back on this, saying, oh, that's going to be a problem. That's going to be our problem spot, and that indeed is what we're experiencing here. You know, again, and I've emphasized this over the last couple of weeks here, I am just of the view that the internal impulse here plays better, right? That's a better looking. I know it's a little distorted here because I'm in log scale, but that looks like a cleaner impulse to me. So I stick with that as my primary, but that would imply that as we sit here just having wicked through the 23 with the 38 down here, if we're coming down for a 4, that this internal count would be playing relatively close to Elliott norms for a raging impulse like this. Obviously, we have quite the extension in the third, right, for an asset, an asset like any other. For Bitcoin, that certainly is not surprising. But as we sit here now in the range that we looked at, with the volume profile and everything else, as we sit here technically in an area that you would anticipate, it just becomes a question of, well, if this is the 3-4, does that make sense in the larger context? Well, when you put the entire framing together and we go out beyond just the COVID low, right on that, we go beyond the COVID low and we put in the 2018 low to our pivot here and start to put the whole thing together, and then we start to look at it this way, well, it makes a bit more sense, right? Again, we've reviewed this last couple of weeks. 1, 2, I would be anticipating that we would have a much bigger 3 coming off of that. So by just again using fib tools and relationships that you might anticipate in a market such as Bitcoin, although there's never been a market like Bitcoin. So up here, here's the 2618. So 1 COVID low. I'm looking for 2618 in that 3, which would be 1, 2 relative to that. Puts us up here about 200 grand. Now that's putting us there, right? Potentially we're finishing out here at, the end of 22. Right? Could be, right? And then we'd have the full impulse off of the 2015 low. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right, in my opinion, that's where I stand with my primary as we sit, right? And again, I'm kind of repeating myself for the last couple of weeks because not enough has changed. So as we sit here looking at it, now if you're just staring at that, out at this distance, and you're looking for 3 in a correction, well, what, right? A, B, C, right? What's complicated? Well, the finish here is a little sloppy, right? All right, nobody likes a sloppy bottom here, so we want to kind of dig in there a little bit better and see could we be done here, because this is where Elliott is helpful. Because see, if you're out here looking at this, you go, oh, okay, well, look, I've come to this prior structural zone here, and there's volume profile here to support that here, and we stalled here. We've come right to this base. Okay, so the price action suggests that, oh, this might be an area to be a buyer. Well, this is where I think Elliott really has an advantage. Again, if I didn't think it gave you advantage, I wouldn't teach it. Because you can sit here with price action and say, oh, we test the lows here, and we had a little reaction. Oh, we're running it, so it's just support and resistance. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but I get... If you're an Elliottician, I get additional tools, additional rules, and guidelines to guide my thinking in terms of if it's not this, then it must be that. And if it's not that, then it must be this. Right? That's the huge benefit that we get from Elliott Wave, and that's all relative to A, B, are we done in that C? Could we be done? Because if you're out here looking at it, you're itching to be a buyer here. Well, not so fast. Not so fast. So let's go down here looking at this. Right, same thing with just a little more detail. So this is a 4 hour here, so the premise again remains that 3 is this 3. Just I've got a different degree on this one. So here's the big 3. Now A, B, can we be done here? Could we be? Well, of course, right. There's not an Elliottician on the planet, right? That's not looking at that saying, sure looks like we have a good candidate for a triangle. Now, it's always iffy, and I'm very reluctant to predict a triangle until I've got the D and I'm moving away from it. Because this could be interpreted differently, right? So we got to have, this has got legs, it's got more room to go. We got to finish down here. I'd want to see something. We're going to come down into all these wicks here and challenge some of that, get rejected yet again, and then if we start heading lower, right, well, then now we'll look at that. So first, looking at that, if you're down here at this low going, could we be done here? Well, you got a couple of little issues here that are making this challenging. One, and most of you have probably seen this, the major alts when they as they followed Bitcoin down, none of all of well, I don't know about all of them, but all of the majors, this is the lowest low, right? They don't have the lower low here, right? Which keeps, so typical of Bitcoin, to keep it more challenging. So this becomes a question mark. Oh. Am I gonna wait a minute? Can I be done here? Because your eye looks at it and you want to think to yourself, oh, okay, well, it looks like there's some sort of 1, 2, 3. Maybe that's the 4. Oh, maybe I could be done here. If you're trying to finish it down here, Bitcoin had the extreme here. All right, so you look here and you think, oh, am I gonna have to truncate that? Well, if we dig in there a little bit tighter here, it gets like you start eliminating possibilities. So if you're coming down from this with the idea, so just right now, is it even possible, again, following rules and guidelines, for us to be finished here? Let's put the triangle out of our mind's eye just for a second here. Just say, can I finish at this low? Could I? Well, fact of the matter is I can. 1, 2, 3. I clearly got some sort of a triangle here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Extension in the 5th. So I have all of the ingredients to get me to a low here that works. But, a couple of challenges, obviously. While we get a big ripping reaction out of this, boy, it's tough to call that much of an impulse. I mean, even at the wildest stretch, God, let's see if I go down to a 15. Could you even find a way into an impulse there? Oh, I guess pardon me, you couldn't get an impulse, but you could get, oh boy, that's ugly. Well, you could get a diag into that, right? Which is not where you want to find it. But so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you could get it. That's not what you'd hope to see, because when it did this, right? When we went from this low, oh God, come here. When we went from this low here and tagged the 50, well, a little shy of first algo target, and then of course it rolls over, reaction at the golden zone, and then ultimately golden zone breaks. We pull up here, kind of the same thing. As we rolled over, when we broke here, right, bulls were in trouble. So because you're losing the algo support at that pivot, right? So even here, it looked like, oh, we're gonna go. It doesn't happen. Well, now backing through this, well, you might look at that and say, well, wait a minute. Okay, so how would that work? If I'm not done here and I've got to deal with this, it's not as drop dead simple as you think. If you take the time to work through this, because then you're saying to yourself, well, wait a minute. If this is the triangle 4, right? Because we're not going to find it in the 2, but if this is my 4, well, then I gotta get into a 3 down here. Well, not so easy, actually, because the 1, 2 here has got to be accounted for somewhere, right? And then this certainly looks like a 4, right? It's part of an impulse. We don't even threaten the 1. Where's my 2? Where do I finish? So if this is going to be a 3, where's my 1, 2? Would you finish it here and have that as the 3? Well, okay, let's look at that. If we did that, if I had pulled, if that was my 1, and I'm going to go into this A, B, C here as a shallow 2, okay, possibly, right? So I'm long enough here, so I'd have 1. Well, here, let's label it. Here, let's take this down. Let's go sub-micro there. Okay, let's label it and see if it would make sense. 1, 2, I guess I can get an impulse here. 3, 4, 5. Let's put that lower. Oh, all right, let me get this up a degree and change the color so we don't get lost. All right, let's go to, what am I not using over here? Let's go with that green. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Whoa, that's a big 4 relative to that 2. Now, we just talked about how shitty the 2 was in Bitcoin at the COVID low, where we're unclear. But boy, we'd be talking about, look at this. This would be the 2. It's about the same. This would be, let's see if I can get it. I guess I can't quite get it the same way, but oh, here, let's just do it this way. All right, so this, if we're going to come up, all right, we're going to go D, E. This would be the 4. All right, now let's go back to a 1 hour and put that in context. 2 to 4. It wouldn't be the craziest thing ever seen, but that's would be atypical. I would say it that way. It's just not what you would. That would be unusual. I say it that way. So, do we want to trade on unusual? Well, I just need something unusual to play out here, and then I'm going to be making millions. Well, you know, it's a wrestle down here, and until we get some clarity from the market here, we can't eliminate that. But if you're applying Elliott, it's really kind of tricky to get it to work. Now, right off the bat, you might think to yourself, well, wait a minute. If that's a 4, it sure plays better if this is the 2. Right, so that's the next thing you'd be looking, because right, just process of elimination, you'd go, well, wait a minute, Sam, why can't this be 1, 2, 3, 4 going down for the 5? Well, no, hang on. Ninja alerts going off as the market's closing. Well, now, okay, let's think about that, right? So if this were 1, 2, 3, 4, well, then the 5 sure looks a whole lot better, doesn't it, right? So if you're coming from here, 1, 2, 3, here's the 4, we're going for the 5. Oh, wait a second. Well, here, I can take it out of log scale here. Here, now look, oh, I got a nice looking impulse now. Nice, okay, what's the problem? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, what's the big deal? Well, it's interesting, right? If that's what plays, right? So let's label it up. Here, let me get it. So if we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now let me get that here. Let's put it in. Let's go minuet here, and oh shit, what am I here? Yellow here, just so it's kind of stands out. All right. Well, if we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, there's only so many possibilities here. Let's go back out to the larger degree and think about that. Right, so this would be bear porn. Okay, so let me just hide that. All right, so let's think about what that would mean. So we'd be saying that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now let's get that silly. Okay, now I'm gonna push this off. Okay, if that's gonna come down and we're gonna get a clean impulse coming down, which God, it sure is teed up for it, right? 1, 2, 3, triangle 4, down for the 5. Well, you got to change your count then. Well, you don't have to. Let's think about what that would mean. Well, if we're going to come down that hard in a 5, odds are the count as I have it labeled here is going to start to break down pretty substantially. Because what would that be implying? This would be implying that we'd be coming down here doing an A, a B, and a C. Now let's get that here. Let's go up again, and we'll put it in white. Okay, so if we come down here, right, so there's only so many options. We'd be coming A, there'd be some sort of a 3 into the B here to come back up here, maybe try and test some of that. If we're going to go down, this is our A, B, we're going down for the C. Well, if we're going that far down now, then the odds are that this would be relabeled. Well, I suppose there's 2 ways we could do it. There are certainly many that view this as a completed impulse and that don't agree with my count. Oh, I suppose I'd have to bring this over here, right? So we'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the internal is going to win the day, right? So there is an impulse in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? You can get it. You can get it. So if that's 3, 4, 5, and we finish, and that's A, B, C, well, then this likely not going to play. So how would that work? Well, this could be 1, 2. Well, I suppose that could be 3. Well, let's measure it. Where would we be there? If that's 1 and that's 2, well, we're again, right, as we've talked about before, I'm in between here. I would not, maybe, okay, front run on the 200, maybe. It seems less likely to me. A, B, C. If we're going to come down here for that, well, certainly we'd be watching this relative to the 1, 2. Let me take this off, right? It's worth playing these out, these what-if scenarios out. Well, let's just say that, what if it does do that? Well, here with this, if we the 50, I suppose you could get there. Right? So you'd have to do something like this. So we'd come 38, react at the B, and then come one more push down to go after the 50. You could probably get away with that. Now, so we'd be looking at it this way. So it'd be A, B, we'd be down for the C here, right? And that would give us the 4 here. All right, we'd be very conscious of that 1 at that pivot here. Well, just the 50 right here is at 15K. So this would be a $50,000 sell-off from the high in Bitcoin. Let's keep going here. Oh shit! This log scale, I can't get it. I got to do it. Oh, I can't do it in log here. Let's see if I can do it this way. I don't think it'll work if I switch back. Oh, yeah, it's not going to work, I don't think. If I go to, well, maybe I guess it will. Well, I won't get it deep enough. Fuck. Can't do it. All right, you can't use a channel in log. It'll distort it. It doesn't matter, right? 1, 2, if that's the 3, 1, 2, 3, we'd be going from the 2 here, still in log, right? Coming down to that 50. Again, the implying we'd have a $50,000 retracement in Bitcoin. I see, now I'm willing to bet my money that that's not going to happen. Right? Talk is cheap, right? Analysis is cheap, right? But where are you willing to put your money? I am willing to bet, right? And if we're coming down there, well, something really dramatic has changed on a macro level. That would be shocking. Not that it's not possible. It's certainly possible. Shit, anything's possible. Is it probable? Well, I think not, right? So there is an alternate. All right, this again, just kind of working through the scenarios here that would have us finishing here. So we'd have to, let's see if I can we make that work? Well, we'd have to do it this way. Give me 1 second here. So this would have to be, this could not be the 5. So if you're trying to get this to finish if it's going to finish as a 5, it's got to be part of an ABC. So the only way I could see that, and we had looked at this as an alternate and had discarded it, that we had gone A, B, C, and then we'd be going up here. So we'd again, this would be unusual. I'm going to say it that way. So we'd still be seeking the 5. So the 4 would be this, right? We'd be going down here for, oh shit, let's see. So we'd have to, so that would be part of the internal 4. So if we're going to get 3, oh shit, I got to do it this way. Put it over here. Okay, so we'd have 3. We'd have, this would be part of the internal swing higher. Then we'd have an A. Then we'd have an A, B, C to come down here and finish. No, pardon me. I got it wrong. Let's get this here. So this would be 3, 4. 4. All right, it's hard to do these. That's why it's easier to do this on 2 charts rather than 1. There we go. Okay, now we got it. All right, so this would be the 3. Still seeking the 5. This would be the 4, 5 here at this degree. So then we'd go A, B, C to come down. Pardon me. This is here. Okay. So A, B, C for the 4. Okay, let's look at it. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Mighty big 4 relative to the 2. Doesn't matter, right? That we'd have the same problem. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this would be 1, 2, 3. A, expand the B, come down for 5. So you get a running flat with a deep C into the 4 right here up to the 5 of the 3. 4, 5 still yet to come. That seems to me the least likely at this moment in time because I can finish it. I think it's a cleaner finish to put the 5 here, which brings me back to A, B, seeking the C of the 4. It's tricky either way. So having looked at all those scenarios here, which again, my suggestion is map it out so that you don't come in, Sunday morning or Monday morning, whenever it is that you're first looking at the market and go, holy shit, Bitcoin's down 15,000. How did that happen? And if that did happen, how am I going to respond? Or holy shit, Bitcoin's up 7-8 grand. How am I going to react? So what does that mean? Where are we in the count? You don't want to be reacting to the market. You want to have a plan. So, if that happens, I know exactly how I'm going to respond. As opposed to, oh, well, shit, man, that's a big up candle. I better see if I can figure out what's going on. The advantage of having it laid out in terms of, okay, if we break up, what does that do in terms of my technical analysis, and am I re-emphasizing any significant pivots if we break higher? If we break lower, well, okay, that triangle is probably playing out, and then you're back to, well, either we're finishing or we're starting. All right, it's one or the other, and the only way that I can see that we can finish here is out of a running flat with an expanded B. I don't see another way for us to finish that. If that triangle is going to break, we're going to come down and complete the 5. That's it, other than A, B, and we're going much lower, and then again, something dramatically different is happening. Don't think we're there yet. I don't want to, ring the alarm bells. I do not think that's the likely path, but it is a path. All right, it's certainly possible. Let me come back here and finish up. Oh shit, how am I doing? Okay, so let's just play this out so that you have a plan. What if we go higher? Well, see, this triangle, right now, if we're going to sit here, you got some pretty significant throw over here. Okay, right, you could probably live with it. You probably talk yourself into it. Okay, B, coming for the E and the 4 right here. We come E, and it's going to be tighter. We're coming down for the 5 to get that. This, right, that's the much more bearish scenario. If we're going to come down here, right, and break, so we're going to allow for this little throw over here. Those all wicks, pretty close, but it's, wouldn't be ideal for the triangle, right? But that's, right, so you would start with it right here, still looking for something lower on the D, right? Remains to be seen. But my point being, okay, we've got a contender here for a triangle, but what if it goes up? What if it goes up here? That's actually the trickier count. So if we, let's see, I'm out of log scale here. All right, I'll wrap up with this. Well, so there's a couple of things in here that are tricky. So right off the bat, when you look at this section here, you want to go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a 5. Wait, that doesn't work as a B. Well, it actually plays better as an ABC because you got to go. Well, let's zoom in there so you can see that a little bit better. You got to deal with this, right? So 1, 2. Okay, or it could be A, B, C, and we're going to essentially double top here, but we got a little wick that goes through. Okay, so that could be this could be 1, 2, but then you'd have to go 1, 2, 3, okay, some sort of triangle, 4, 5, but now we're overlapping the 1, so it would have to be a diagonal. I think it plays better as an ABC because I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into the A, B, C into the B, and now you're going to have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into the C. So you can get 5 there, 5 here, so you can go A, B, C. So it actually, that being the case, if we're back into analyzing, is this a contender to have finished the C, even though we have this deep retracement, there is definitely, oh shit, here, I'll just take them off. There's definitely an alternate count here, because if we go higher, how do we deal with all this? Well, it's pretty straightforward. So the weakness is the first leg, right? This is a weak leg. But if we go 1, 2. Well, we could be going 1, 2 again, right? So as we sit here, now the first thing you do, or it's just, of course, right, as we looked at, all right, I'm sure every member has done that. Say, so all right, you can't use this one, all right, because that's already been broken. All right, so, well, if we're going to break lower, we'd have to have a new high. But so right here, as we said, we come down here and we tapped a little front run on the golden zone. It's not inconceivable. Here, I'll hide these. That we could have done 1, 2. Now, the weakness, right, of course, right, would be right here. Right? We'd have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, that's a shitty start. Right? That's not how you'd want to start this. So that's why, right, this is going to need to happen before you're back here going, God, is that the one that I have to live with? A, B, C into a very deep 2. Now, granted, this is all wick down here, right? There's the candle closes are right there. Bring them over, right? All we've done is just kind of check the demand level down here, and we reacted out of it. Now, if we're going to, we certainly could come back down, check again, but then you'd be breaking the golden zone. So from there, you wouldn't do it this way. You wouldn't go here and say, oh, from there. You'd have to do it from here. Not here, right? Because the algo is going to use the dominant range. What's the range? What's the high to the low? Right now, I have this range. Here's my high to my low, right? So that's why you start here and bring it here. Yeah, fuck. If I can get it over there. Okay, so here, so ABC. So could be, now could I have a 1 there? Excuse me. Well, the ABC as a potential 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 works. I got to work backwards. Can that be my 3? Do I have a 1, 2? Well, once again, you got to deal with this with a shitty little 1, 2. Right? It's just 1, 2. You'd have to do it. 3, 4, 5. Doesn't look great, right? The 1, 2. Once again, problem in the 1, 2. ABC looks pretty solid. Now, this is going to need to kick out of here. That's not a great start. Yet once again, we get just a little square. It looks just like this one, right? We get a little pop, but now that's going to need to get legs in a hurry. If that's going to get out of here as a 1, 2. Now, if we did get that, right? If we did, we'd certainly have a contender here to put together a corner pocket. Now, we don't know, right? Maybe it goes golden. Now you got some reasonable targets up here, but let's think about that. If that's going to be a 1, 2, well, we're looking for 3, 4, 5. All right, now we're coming out of the hole. So all of this, gets relabeled here as that was the 4 potentially for the triangle. So if we can go off of this low, if I get it right on there, that's pretty close. 1 ABC into the 2, right? Again, it could be done. It could be in already. Right, this could be our low here. We don't know. It wouldn't surprise me if we had some vol over the weekend. So you'd certainly love to see the golden zone hold, right? But if it gets down in there, heads up. All right, pay attention. Let's see the indicators. Now we certainly got into, well, I don't like to use the phrase oversold, right? We got, what do I want to say here? Certainly you can stay, well, let's just say it this way. We got below 30 on the RSI, right? It can certainly stay there, but it has a tendency to snap out of that. But you can stay there for longer. This is just a different representation of the RSI. I just kind of like it because it's an easy way to spot divergence and then trending as you're crossing the 50. But I digress. Wrong one. Let's get up here. So if we come out of this, could be here, could be there's more to come, could be down here, right? You don't kill the corner if you break the golden zone. You just lose the golden corner, which is the stronger. So right now, I put it here until I'm forced to move it. ABC, 1, 2, maybe, right? That's going to need to hold, but it's going to need to come out of there pretty fast. Right, the longer we sit here and we drift a little bit lower, the more likely, so these become targets, right? They're always, right? These are major pivots. There are stops under both of those, right? So if we start, always, right? It's a push to get to the stops, right? Because that's fuel that'll push it further. If we get those stops, then we're likely to get those stops. And all of that starts to push it down, as that's fuel for shorts, which is why the bears are always, why B is always a failed attempt to try and get to those pivots. Or a 2 is a failed attempt to get to the 1 low. It's the fact that they can't get there, which starts to then the shorts, then the stops that are going to be along the way start becoming the fuel to take you higher. We're not there yet. So as we sit here now, this is a bit of a sloppy bottom cluster F. it's difficult to really have any conviction in where we're going until we get resolution. Right? So I think the whole thing sits right here. Right? What happens here? Right? That was that just excess? Right? That got absorbed and pushed higher, or does this need to get threatened, and are they going to break the lows here? And if we're breaking those lows, right, here's the next level of support. That's 24K, which brings us right back to 24 is right here, right, that little divot that we talked about. So that would bring us right about here. 3, 4, 5. That structure for the 4 doesn't kill the impulse. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's deep, right? It's deeper than you want to go. I'm still in log scale. Coming into that 5. 1, 2, but that would still be relative to the larger 1, 2, 3. That's my view, right? This is going to be very interesting, and this, I think, will dictate what we're going to do here for probably for the summer, how far we're going to go down, or are we going to start to rally again. Going to be very interesting. This is really challenging trading, but very, very interesting trading as well. So Bitcoin is always a technical challenge, but this is going to be really interesting. So if you're unclear, there's no need to hurry into the market here. Let this resolve. Let it show its hand. If we're going to come down, right, you got to evaluate, does that mean it's time to be a buyer, or do you want to step aside and then look for the inevitable, right? If you get a pivot and you can get a little retrace, right? If we go that low and then you get the little retrace, right, then you can trade with that pivot, right? And hopefully we come out of here, do this, and we get a big 3, and we go up and try and get some of those upper targets heading towards that 5. Okay, guys, there you go. That's all I got. Just a reminder here, take advantage of these. This may be the last one we have for a while when the holidays are coming up here. So this will go through the end of the month at midnight. Always, if you have questions, right, you're not sure, again, it's all caps here. If you have questions, you can always write us, reach us, call us. All right, same thing with indicators, 20% off everything. And with that, here we're going to wrap, and be very interesting to see what we're looking at next Friday. Okay, guys, have a great weekend, and members will be back on Monday. Oh, live streams are on the way, so look for those soon. We did 1 or 2 last week. Okay, guys, talk to you soon.